Welcome back to Made for More. I am your host, Holly J. Moore. Made for More is a podcast where we talk about showing up as the best version of yourself each and every day. Today, for us, not so much. We're a little made for less today. As you can see, I've got half-drunk glasses of champagne, an open bottle, because, usually we shoot the podcast in order. Segment 1, segment 2 with the guest, segment 3. Today, we had to do it all backwards, upside down, and then the episode didn't even record. Aaron, you're not even wearing the shirt that I wanted you to wear.
Oh, no. Okay,
and you're getting drunk on Martinelli's.
Yes, I am. Okay, all right. The shirt shall appear now. There it is.
There it is.
See?
Thank God. Phew.
Yeah, see, I've got
one thing right
champagne
today.
problems.
You got champagne problems.
I got 99 bubbles, but a flute ain't one. Wait, that doesn't even make any sense.
Now, you may have had occasion recently to drink some champagne.
Yes.
I hear some congratulations are in order.
Look at this. She finally put a ring on it. Right? No, yes. Abby and I got married.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. Had a beautiful wedding mass at St. Kateri, and then, getting emotional. What is, what? My Zoom, nobody can even.
Fireworks going on.
What? How did,
Did you do that?
No, I didn't do that.
Oh my God. Is that going to show up on the recording?
No, it's not, because we're recording.
That'll be such a bummer, because that was so epic.
The QuickTime recording put fireworks behind me.
Fireworks went off behind you when you said you got married.
I got married.
Congrats.
No, congratulations.
Congratulations. No, it was a one time. That was special. Oh my God.
Okay, because
post, you need to put fireworks behind you. You got to do it.
Technology today has been our friend. Yes. So we got married, beautiful wedding mass, great reception. Fun was had by all. We were going to have champagne flutes. I don't drink. She drinks occasionally or whatever, but the first box of flutes we got broke.
Okay.
So then we ordered a second box.
Yes.
We grabbed the first box heading to the reception, so we didn't have our flutes.
It sounds a lot like our day today.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yes.
It's just been, oh my gosh. So this is, I don't even know what segment this is.
I mean, we actually do have champagne problems.
Yes, well, too many.
Yeah.
Too many.
Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Shiloh Caffrey, champagne guru, again, because we just shot this whole beautiful intro to the episode where she taught me how to open a bottle of champagne. We've drank some. We're here half buzzed. And the internet must have gotten drunk and they drank it up. So we don't have any of that footage. So Shiloh, welcome back yet again.
Take two.
Take two, baby. So yes, I've got champagne trash on my desk. I've got the bottle that I've already opened and the evidence thereof. But because you and I are the only two,
open.
Yes, you now have
not a problem on a Friday.
Yeah, you now have two bottles opened, which means the night is going to be extra fun for you.
Not a bad problem to have.
True, there are worse things. But because you and I are the only ones that were there for this whole opening ceremony and all your fantastic instruction, you got to tell us how to do it all over again.
I mean, it's a hard job to figure out what to do with two open bottles on a Friday, but someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it, yes.
We really have to do this because, as I was saying to you, I had opened thousands of bottles years into my career, and I was in France, and a sommelier came up to me, which is like a wine professional, and I was opening a bottle very casually, safely, and he's like, stop, what are you doing? And really, because the pressure of inside a bottle of champagne is equal to a tractor tire, there are some precautions that you do want to take. So very basic. Of course, it is also a very fun celebratory beverage, but we don't want anyone to lose an eye in this.
Exactly. So, everybody wants both their eyes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you can, go on to enjoy more champagne in your life.
Yes.
So I will just go through the brief steps, and I'll kind of tell you where people sometimes get it wrong. And just as far as safety goes, once this cage is off the top of the bottle, it is like a loaded gun. So we're going to try to do our best. So first step, you basically find the little tab on the topper foil. Sometimes you have to use your nail like you had to.
Yes.
You can't You can rip the whole thing off. I'm going to kind of show you the steps, what a somm in a more professional setting would do. But again, there's things to make it more fun. So after this top foil bit comes off, and this one, of course, is giving me a little trouble. You're going to find the wire cage, which is holding the cork in place. So there's a little tab that pulls down. And once you release this tab, you're going to put your thumb of your non-dominant hand and wrap the rest of your fingers around the neck of the bottle. So my dominant hand, I'm right-handed, is going to be used to open it at the base. So you're just going to take this, untwist it. Once you start untwisting, again, do not remove this hand off the top, because now this is a loaded gun with no safety on. So then what you're going to do is you're going to use your dominant hand, hold the base of the bottle, and this, still not removing my thumb, is going to wrap around the whole bottle cork cage. And you're going to keep this hand stationary at the top, and you're just going to start to rotate the bottom of the bottle, and it'll slowly start to give. Sometimes if it's a little tough, you can get a rag to give you a little extra support. But they say in the somm world, it's supposed to be as quiet as a nun's fart. So I know that's kind of silly, but in a professional setting, you would kind of want to release it so slow that it just sighs.
Oh, we barely even heard it.
So, and I think sometimes that's the problem. Champagne is so celebratory. You do kind of want to give it a little pop, but that was kind of my tutorial, if you will, on a professional champagne bottle. Very safe. No one's going to get hurt, and you're not going to lose any bubbles as it opens.
Right.
So one thing I was mentioning is, because it's so bubbly, you do want to make sure to kind of pour at like a 45-degree angle, the same way you would fill kind of like a glass of beer. That way it doesn't bubble over.
Yes.
Sight and sound.
Yes.
So here we got to the
but everybody's going to wonder, Holly, why do you have a champagne flute and a white wine glass on your desk? Because we lost all that footage where you explained that.
Yes.
So you got to tell us about that again.
Okay. So first you reached for your flute.
Yes.
Which I would say is kind of the iconic stemware of choice for champagne. It, of course, is really beautiful because it's really long and slender, and you get the fine bubbles kind of dancing up the glass. But in the professional wine world, somms and wine enthusiasts would prefer a white wine glass, which you also have, or like a champagne tulip, which is what I'm using today. And the reason they recommend this is because you get a wider opening at the nose. So if you're opening something, that you've spent a little money on, or you really want to just appreciate the aromas, the flavors, the nuances, if you put your nose at the top of a flute, you're really not going to get the wine's full expression. And I did mention that 80% of your perception of a wine comes from aroma.
Yes.
So I think the idea with the white wine glass or the champagne tulip is that there's a little more oxygen in it. You get to experience it. So again,
you're right. Like, this is not nearly as aromatic as this.
Exactly.
Yes, that's true. Wow.
And so doing a side-by-side for me in my job, I recommend as often as possible to be able to do a side-by-side with different stemware, different bottles, different even grape varietals. Like one champagne could be Pinot Noir and one could be Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And so when you do side-by-sides, I think you get to experience the contrast.
Yes.
Whereas, normally if you're just drinking out of the flute or the white wine glass, you wouldn't have anything to compare
it to. Yeah. Okay.
So I love that you have both, for one, because you're double fisting,
Yes.
but also it's kind of an experiment. So we'll cheers, and then we'll give it a little sniff and taste. Cheers.
A little sniff, a little taste. Delicious.
Your bottle is just as good.
Awesome. Okay, and I know we talked about, you kind of said, like, let it run over your palate, kind of keep it in your mouth for a little bit to really experience all the different flavors and notes.
Yes. So, and another thing we kind of chatted about too is, how nerdy do we get on the wine side?
Yes.
Which, going back to the flute, even though the wine professionals would say don't drink out of a flute because it constricts a lot of the aromas, at the same time, if you're celebrating something and you're having a fun evening and the goal of the night is celebratory and not so much to nerd out on the wine,
Yeah.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with reaching for a flute. So, I mean, I still occasionally drink out of flutes. It's kind of the user's choice,
Right.
And so
Yes.
with experiencing it, like we could probably fill an hour of conversation diving so deep into this actual glass that you have in front of you that I have.
Yeah.
And talk about, where it's from, how it's made, the different tasting notes, what it pairs with.
Right.
And I think that like there's always a really important element to diving deep and learning more, because I think you get to appreciate it more,
Yes.
but also not so much to where you lose the experiential side.
Yeah, the fun of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to your point, you do want to give it a smell if you want to take it serious. And then definitely your first sip, you take a sip and kind of let it roll over all parts of your tongue. It's not just down the throat, you want to, and you have all different sensors around your tongue, sweet, savory, spicy, umami. And as the wine kind of rolls over, not only get the texture from the bubbles, but it kind of hits different parts of your tongue. So that would be my nutshell recommendation. Let it, first 2 sips kind of coat your tongue, think about it a little more. And then if you like it, throw it back.
Yeah. Throw it back.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So you clearly know a lot about champagne. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. I mean, how does one become so passionate about champagne?
That is a great question. And I mean, I have my 5-minute answer and my 5-hour answer. So towards the 5-minute answer. So my husband and I, years ago, we just decided we had raised a family in California, California, home for both of us. And when they got to about 4 and 6, we were like, gosh, life is going really fast. We had some unfortunate losses financially from family members. And we were like, it's just too short. Like we need to live for the moment and we can't just get on this hamster wheel. So we decided to sell everything and we moved to Europe.
Oh my gosh.
We settled in a very small town in Italy. And for us, it was a reset. It was kind of recalibrating on like, what's so important? Is it the Range Rover or is it time with our family?
Right.
And so the Italian way, which probably more than most people, is very slow. It's very simple. It's community based. It is family based. They truly they work just to live, whereas so many Americans live for their work.
Yes.
And so it was just a total flip flop of culture for us, especially being like newer parents. And from that point on, we were like, this is life. And so that have set us on this trajectory of how we could bring parts of Europe back into our home, which is still California.
Yeah.
And for us, the biggest part of the culture is the food and wine.
Yes.
As we lived abroad, I was constantly surprised by the quality of the small batch grower champagnes and sparkling wines that I was finding.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me really quickly that, okay, these wines exist. Why, when I go shopping for sparkling wine or champagne in America, am I only coming across Veuve Clicquot, Moet, Chandon, and La Marca Prosecco?
Right. Yeah.
So I just kind of started going down this path of doing a little more serious wine studying to become a certified somm.
Yeah.
And then through that, I kept finding there is this common love of champagne amongst wine enthusiasts.
Okay.
And not only that, but I'm like, gosh, every time I have a bottle of bubbles in the fridge and someone comes over unexpected for dinner, and I'm like, do you want to start with a bottle of champagne? They're like, really? Like, what are we celebrating?
Right.
And
It seems so special.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I just became kind of addicted to seeing what a bottle of bubbles did to the room and to the group.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, became known as kind of the champagne Shiloh. I was always available with a bottle of bubbles.
Yeah.
It could be a Tuesday afternoon,
right.
And we were like, let's celebrate.
Yes.
I don't know. Let's just celebrate that it's Tuesday.
Yes.
So as I was a school teacher for years. As I took the wine side of studying a little bit more serious, I just kept finding myself so fascinated with champagne and the product of it, and also the pairing abilities with food and the process of how it's made, and just how it's actually one of the lower alcohol wines that you can select, lower calorie wines. And I was like, there's so many things about this that fascinates me.
Right.
How can I connect all this that I'm learning in the product to all my friends back in California?
Yeah.
That was kind of the beginning of the journey. So I just was like, we're members of a few wine clubs, but none of them include any sparkling wine.
Right.
And long story short, one thing led to another, and I found myself with basically the Bubbles Club, which is bringing champagnes and sparkling wines that you can't find anywhere else into your home.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, but before we move on,
that was the whole picture.
yes. No, I love it. I'm like, every time I've gone to Italy or really Europe, I always come back and like, let's just sell it all. Let's just have a slower way of life, because there is something so just like honest and pure about the way they are living in Europe that is so different than the rat race that we're all in America. So I totally relate to your story. Of course, that lasts a day for me. And then I'm like, okay, Range Rover, here we come.
That is the way.
Yes, I know. So I love that. I love that story. But also, when I was looking at your social media, that actually was something I was surprised about, was, because I think unless you've really gone deep into the world of champagne, it is really just purely celebratory. You don't think about the food pairings. You don't think about the different profiles and, flavor profiles and like all the stuff. I mean, I think, people have gotten a lot more educated on, with wine, on those things with wine. But in terms of champagne, I mean, I've never heard about people pairing things with champagne. So I was actually very surprised about that when I saw that on your social media. So I think that's cool. And you're clearly sort of bringing a new, education element to people, which I think is great.
Yes. And I love that stuck out to you, because education is definitely the heart of what I'm doing. I think it's the best way to connect a customer with my product. And again, my goal is not to convert everyone to buy champagne. It is to find the people who are looking for a product like mine and connect with them.
Yeah.
And I do think, and something that I'm very fortunate in my job is to go over to Champagne and speak to the winemakers. And it is definitely this newer culture where all of the small champagne makers, the small batch, not the big, the bigger houses that are pumping out multi-millions of bottles, but the smaller houses that are doing everything themselves, their goal is really to communicate to the drinker that this is a serious wine. It's not a wine with bubbles. It is a very wine. It should be considered for wine pairings and food menus. And, it could be drunk without the bubbles and still be a delicious wine.
Okay. So, touching on Veuve and Moet and all of that, what is, I don't want to say bad, because maybe you wouldn't say that, but let's just say, what is more beneficial about this? What do you call it? The small batch grower labels?
Small batch. So it's called grower champagne.
Okay.
The actual product is called grower champagne. And what that refers to is that the person growing the champagne it's all estate grown fruit from their vineyards, and they are doing the whole process in total. So they don't purchase any fruit. They don't outsource any part of the product from vine to bottle. It is all under their control. And 99% of these grower champagne houses, and 100% of who I work with, are farming organically. They are not using any pesticides, zero additives. It is just a very pure product. And so not only is it a cleaner product, but it's also a very focused product. So I think the idea of the bigger houses of champagne is they are trying to give you the same bottle year after year. The flavor profile should never change. It is a blend of more of a bigger picture of champagne. But again, they want consistency, whereas the smaller growers, they're wanting quality and nuances.
Okay.
So, and it's really, I'm glad you said like you don't want to throw anyone under the bus because, and that's not my goal either, because first of all, I think the big houses have paved such a great way for these smaller growers, but also it's different customers. You know, there are people that want Veuve Clicquot every day of their life, and they can get that. And then there are people who want to take champagne a little more seriously and understand the nuances and experience different vintages. So cooler vintages should taste different than warmer vintages. And if you're having a single parcel, like the Chardonnay grown on this truck is different than the Chardonnay grown over here. And so it really is, again, a consumer choice. And my job, I think, is just to educate. And I love talking about the nuances and the differences, but I never want people to think I'm throwing Veuve under the bus. However, their yellow label, for instance, they source from all over. And so it isn't necessarily a quality product, it's a quantity product, but they make really fabulous high-end bottlings that not dissing at all. It's just drawing the comparison.
Okay, so I have to ask this because my neighbor and I, it's actually her fault. She's the one that got me hooked. But like, we're big Cristal people. Do you know, like, how much do you know about Cristal?
I know a lot about Cristal. I actually did a seminar with the champagne maker in LA a couple years ago. And so Cristal is produced under the Louis Roederer champagne.
Yes.
But it is their high-end bottling. So Cristal is actually a single vintage champagne. They only make in great vintages. And all the wines used to make Cristal are estate fruit by Louis Roederer and also organically farmed. So in essence, Cristal is a very expensive version of grower champagne.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because when she first got me into Cristal, I tend to geek out on things and I get like obsessive about things. And so I read so much about it, and it's like, you know, the 2013 might taste a little bit like this because it was a colder year, and this, that, and the other, versus like the 2012 is like this because it was more moist. And like, I do feel like from what you're teaching me about these grower champagnes, I'm like, that kind of sounds like Cristal. So, okay. Phew.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And and for me, and when people are like, don't knock the big brands, they've done so much for the industry of champagne. I'm not knocking the brands. It's more that certain of their lower end bottlings are very compromised in quality. And so my only plea is that educate yourself, because you may realize the $65 you're spending on Veuve Clicquot, you could spend $50 on a bottle of grower champagne that's premium quality, tells more of a story, supports a farmer. And so, and again, Veuve Clicquot has some high-end bottlings that are insane, but they're best fruit in that, and they're giving it a lot of time. And so to get the quality products from Louis Roederer, Veuve Clicquot, you're spending triple digit.
Yes, true.
So, and that's not a problem. It's to the consumer's choice, but I think people have set the yellow label Veuve as a standard of quality, and I would say Cristal should be set as a standard of quality, but not Veuve's yellow label.
Got it.
And
okay.
So, so you're exactly right, and your palate is on point if that's one of your favorite champagne.
Okay. Yes, Erica, we can still drink Cristal. Okay, that's my neighbor. Okay, so let's say you're going to a restaurant. How do you and they're giving you that wine menu, which sometimes is massive. Like, how do you choose a good bottle of bubbles?
So this is a great question. I have a few tips for this. So first tip is, if you are at an establishment that has a pretty decent wine menu, they likely have a wine director or sommelier on the floor. And these people are waiting to answer your questions about wine. So I would say use this free resource, ask the wine director to come over to the table and say, we're really interested in a bottle of champagne, but we would prefer something in the grower category. Do you have anything in the grower category? And my guess is if they do, they're going to be so excited to geek out with you on it. they had Veuve Clicquot or Moet Chandon on these wine lists because a lot of people shop by brand.
Right.
And, that's not a bad thing, but that's what they're looking for. They see it on the menu, done.
Yes.
A wine director is so happy to have a guest that's curious to discover because, they've put a lot of their own thought and heart and soul into this list. So I would say first tip, always ask to speak with a wine director if the restaurant has one. Second would be stay away from the big label brands.
Okay.
Again, they're going to upcharge you at the restaurant extremely. You'll be paying 3 to 4 times what you would at the grocery store.
Right.
And then another tip would be that if you're looking in the sparkling wine section and the only champagnes you're seeing is a Veuve Clicquot and a Moet Chandon, Imperial, Brut Imperial, then I would maybe jump into the category of like a Cremant from France or a Cava from Spain or a Franciacorta from Italy. They have so many smaller sparkling wine. Stay away from Prosecco for sure, just because they're made differently entirely than champagne. That's a different product on its own.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot of non-champagne sparkling wines that will over-deliver on the quality for the price.
Okay. Okay. And I know through your Bubbles Club, you also do trips, right? Like you take members back over to Europe and you do really cool things like that. Tell us more about that.
So yes, I actually just returned home from one of these trips about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And honestly, one of the highlights of my job, of course.
Yes.
But over the last 7 years, I've spent so much time cultivating relationships with these grower champagne houses. And so, for instance, the bottle that I'm drinking, they only produce 4,000 bottles in total a year.
Oh, wow.
Winery.
Yeah.
So, this isn't a product that's fit for Costco. It's not a product that's for Veuve Moet. They don't have the volume. So I really get to spend time with them, hear their story, tell their story to my customers, but also I've just had so many of those really special experiences. I was like, I would love to bring a group of my clients here and like have the meal with the winemaker and be in the caves and see what they're doing hands-on. And so 3 years ago, I launched our first, it was kind of post-COVID, people were ready to travel.
Yes.
In 2022, and I led a group of 24 people. We went all around the Champagne region. We did tastings in the morning, educational things, picnics, wine tours, meals, paired with champagne. And it has really become something I look forward to every year. And the idea is, the value is that I'm bringing you behind the scenes in the industry side of champagne. So it's not just, booking a tasting at Veuve Clicquot.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you feel like through, what you've like the business you've created and now, with these member trips, do you feel like you've been able to hold on to a piece of that sort of like slower European life?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Owning a small business is a lot of work.
Yes.
And you wear all the hats at some times, and there is a lot of freedom to owning your own business, but then also I think a lot of handcuffs in a way too.
Yeah. Freedom to work 24/7.
Exactly. Yes. But at your own leisure.
Yes, that's right.
And so I will say that because I love what I'm doing right now, the balance is that even though there are seasons of a lot of work, I'm still enjoying it so much, but I'm each year trying to lean more into that European lifestyle and spending time with having the boundary of work and also time to travel with my family and, open champagne over some meals. And the funny thing is, even though there are times that I am working, some of those times are opening bottles with friends. And it's still technically work. So,
now that's the job to have.
Yes. It's a work
that would be frowned on in my line of work.
Yes, totally. And in most lines of work. Yes. I was a school teacher before this. So trust me.
Definitely couldn't do that in class.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that each year I get better at it.
Yeah.
Again, once you go over there, the culture just saturates you. It's so easy.
Right.
Yeah. Coming back and being like, oh, I have a business and employees to take care of.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a give take.
True. Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. Cheers yet again to your amazing lessons and also your amazing product. Thank you so much. It's delicious.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Let's definitely try to cheers in person one of these days.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. I've got just a little bit more to say. Life should be celebrated. I love what Shiloh's approach is to champagne and how she originally became passionate about it. It's because at any minute we have something to celebrate. And sometimes life seems hard. Sometimes you have days like today where you feel a little bit made for less. But I promise you, if you have the mindset and the perspective to find the good and to find what can be celebrated, you will find something to celebrate. And when you do, pop that bottle of bubbly. And never forget, you were made for more.